Katshwa wawuzimangele. Khatshwe ngezinto izinyawo nangezifutha zanyana. Walukudla umlenze kwabulawayo. Kubela bakuhlabe ngamanxeba. Unkomo ezavula inqaba ngezimpondo ngoba zavula ingoma ezahamba kithi kwaZulu. Inyanga abathe ithwasa bathi ha ifile kanti yathwasa ithwase ngonyokana kampeyana. Lobutshani bude busemahalikhali kabuthi nakutsha bothi nyakana butshayo buthe nemithi amadoda. Kwashushaka kwashudingani wathelela ushaka nodingane futhi. Ingcosana yezibongo nguye othe ephuma kwaZulu waphuma elabantu, waphuma elemikhuba lamasiko okungazange kufe. Yikho lalamhla kulokhu kulithunuka loba seliseHaboroni lokho elikukhumbula ngoba umlilo welongwe kawucithi. Baphuma ozwa ngendaba engufokajele uthe uyaphaphama isinguni sasingasekho. Waphuma umfokanxumalo engusochangane wangena eMozambique uthe uyaphaphama wathola ulimi kaluseko. Waphuma ungwana okamaseko waqonda eMalawi uthe uyaphaphama wathola ulimi lamasiko akuseko. Kwabaphuma kuThaka munye zwi owenelisa ukuthi alondoloze amasiko esizwe sakhe, imikhuba lamasiko lolimi. Nguye umkhatshwa wawuzimangele, libuthana ngolimi aluletha kulo umama. Kuhleke kubona ukuthi lokhu bekhona abantu abalokhe benqineka ngokudinga ukulondoloza lawo masiko. Abanye basuka nje badangale, badinwe, badele. Siyababonga ke abaqoqe lo umsebenzi, abakwazileyo ukuthi balezopha ngoba lolo limi, lawo masiko, leyo mikhuba yalondolozwa ngegazi langezithukuthuku lokucabanga okujulileyo. Kusadinga ingqondo ke ezijulileyo ukuthi zedlulisele imibono leyo phambili. Ngizake ngithi kancinyane ngingakayiphambili enxe ngizaquma bese ngikhuluma later on. But okwakhathesi ke ngithinte behayile ndaba azazikhulumela. Kodwa ngizathanda ukuthi sikwazi lokho esithi royal link phakathi kweHighlanders lobukhosi buhamba njani ukuze lingasali likufanisa, lingasali selikuphumputha. Sizaqala ke ngokuthi yazini ukuthi umzilikazi bathe sebemchayile lapha akuseduze lakho napha esikhona imuseha eGabheni beza amabhunu bevelele eSouth Africa bakhokhelwe ngoAndries Hendrik Potgieter, thina aMandebele sithi ngundaleka balabo youth. Ayikho nawakithi amajaha okhumalo umkhaliphi yathubulana eFegkop linelise South Africa lapho omkhithika abaduma khona, kulapho amaqhawe afana labentunteni umkhabahaba okamkhwananzi umpandi yamadoda kungasi mkhwananzi uGawu ibizo lakhe nguKhondwane. Emabhukwini lawo balayo nguyothiwe nguGundwane, hatshi akusigundwane nguKhondwane engowakondiweni. Siyasibezwe-ke abathi bona umzilikazi uzalwa nguNompethu owakonxumalo. Hayi kungeke kube yikho lokho, uzalwa nguCikose uMandiweni. Ubufakazi buningi, ngakho lizayibona iconnection phakathi kweHighlander la uMandiweni nxa sesifika isikhathi sakhona. uthi ke malumami khondwane hamba labantwana unina kalobhengula uFlatha enguthabalala ukhonapha unina kaNkulumane engumwaka owakonxumalo ukhonapho labo Nkulumane labo lokuza bakhonapho ibabahambela ngapha ngempumalanga bangathi baqonda eBadbridge bayaqina ke besiya kwakha kuncema umfula lomzingwane ikufika kwabo lapho imizi ke yabamnengi lapho umuzi obumkhulu wazale imizi ngumzinyathi okamajijili uGwebu yiwo umuzi omkhulu ethiwa ngamnyama angankomo yibo abebesemzinyathi umzinyathi kusemfuleni sibili umzingwane kodwa kumzinyathi wazala amanye amabutho kumbe ngithi imizi umzinyathi uzele ugodlwayo okamafu wazaye ngumahlaba ithwale lo wazala amatshetshe engakasifo uMasuku owazala umntanakhe uManyakavula uMasuku wazala uNgundu uMasuku uNgundu wazala uAugustine uMasuku ngeqilo omunye wayekhona uMzimuni nguye obezalwa nguNgundu kwase emzala ngabona liyayazi indaba yamatshetshe leyana yokusonga umthondo uNgundu uthe sebona amatshetshe kungela nkosi kungela nduna enanzelela ukuthi akulamntwana ongufana yena uthethe okambehane umbehane umntakamzilikazi akazange azathola umntwana ongumfana wase siyathatha umagumede wala kahle uzibuza ukuthi kathi mzimuni ongela mfana wabe sethatha umfana lwana ibizo lakhe walithi ngumzimuni wayamusa kokambehane uMakhumalo kodwa kaMakhumalo umva kwesikhathi bazakhupha uMakhumalo ozalwa nguNyanda ukuthi abe yinhlanzi kodwa ke kwatholakala ukuthi hayi usekwenzile uNgundu lo umntanakhe ozelwe ngumagumede usengumntaka kaMakhumalo lingeke lisamtshintsha kuloko yikho kwenzakalayo ngakho ke uyengo olwabomlugulu uKhumalo khonapho bazalwa yiwo umzinyathi intshamathe layo ngiyakhonapho izalwa nguye umzinyathi kuza kuba lamanye amaxiba akayi sizawachiya phezudlwana le kulamakhanda ngamanye ke lawo ayeze labantwana sekudlula iminyaka emibili bengayiboni inkosi bathi engxenye seyafa base besithi kungcono ngoba nxa inkosi ingekho kakho ivula incwadi nxa inkosi ingekho kakho olikhuphampi base besithi asimonini umntwana batsho uNkulumane base bemona kodwa okamkhithika umkhithika okaThebe wathi mina sengisiyayidinga inkosi wahlangana layo kulapho ke umzilikazi athi yena selingonele umntwana lalibona ngaphi ilanga elaphuma elinye lingakatshoni yikho ke esesiza ukhokhelwa ngabaleya ngoba yibo ababeyazi indlela yokuzahlangana lalabo hayi nansi intaba ezinduna leziyanduna ezinye siyazazi zagongotwa okhondwana hayi wahlwa zithela ngomkhonto kulokuthi abulawayo ngumuntu isidluleke leyo ndaba asichiyeni bese sithi ke Nkulumane kwenzakaleni kuye asikwazi kumbe kwathiwa kabamthathe bayimbulala kumbe wafa kumbe kafanga akula muntu olazi iqiniso lakhona lakhathesi asilazi abanye bathi nanti ayingcwaba kubafukeng abeRustenburg nguye abanye bathi hayi kayisuyi iniso kasikalazi mhla sizalazi nxa sizalazi sizalazisa yikho okwenza ukuthi bese kudinga ukuthi kathi pho nxa uNkulumane engabonakali kuzathiwani? Hayi, abanye bathi thina ukubusa ngumntwana eswazi ibhudle lamathamunyu inkani. Kulapho ke umfo kaMadlenya uMasuku ngumbiko lo ethethe uzinkabi yena mpana ngabana ophakamisa isandla ethethe uzinkabi bebathethe omathebe bebaningi. Kodwa ke liyakwazi ukuthi uMakhumalo akalamlingani, ufika agabhela abafazi abadala abuse yena, nguye futhi osezazala le nduna. Yikho kwakusenziwa yithi lo wala wemba phansi uLobhengula nxa sekunjalo sekuyikulo nango ngenqola uhamba lomncumbathi uKhumalo yadibana ke khona ngale okuthiwa kusengcekezeni. Nxa usiye eTechmine, nxa usiyenyathi khona phana uzabona ngezihlahla khona phana eziningi izinga lapho kwakulunxiwa lukwaziwa ngendaba, bambulala wafela khona phana. Waqina kuLobhengula usehleze esihlalweni ngo-1870. Wathi yena isigodlo sakhe kuzathiwa nguGibixhegu. uGibixhegu lapho kwakuhleli khona ukhondwane lo owakwendiweni. Okuthe sekufika umzilikazi kwathiwa kabadle imbuya. Izimpangele babe ngomahlangu laba abakamagodonga babaleka. Nango-ke uMveleleni, ngizalitshela isizathu ukuthi ngikuthinte lo. uMveleleni wabaleka lezimpangele echiya umkakhe uMabhena ezithwele. Basebesithi bona, umna wakhe lozazalwa uzamthatha ngaphi ngoba Mabhena indoda isibuyele emuva kibo komagodonga. Imfana lo uthe ezalwa wathiwa nguyisivalo, waba ngusivalo enduna yenkayi la khathesi. Ngikukhulumela ukuthi ngoLwesithathu uyagcotshwa usivalo ngoba ubhubhe ngo-2014. Ngiyakhumbula ngangisengilandi lo mnyaka bemfonela ukuthi ungakusibhalele ihistory kaSivalo uSolomon uyisemkhulu nguSivalo mnikazi webizo. uLobhengula uthe sethubulanelo zwangendaba abuyele esigodlweni aye kuthi, bantu bakithi, mina Lobhengula ngingobulawayo. Amakhiwa athi selitshela amanga athi place of slaughter. Kulo muntu wakwabulawa lekhaya asibulaleli umuntu ekhaya. Ngakho ke wathi mina Lobhengula ngingobulawayo. Lapho okuhlala khona umuntu obulawayo kuthiwa kukobulawayo. Ngakho ke ibala ukuthi Bulawayo yisikhiwa, libala lesindebele libekwe ngesikhiwa, kakutsho lutho kithi. Thina sithi koMadinda, kasithi Madinda. Nxa usithi Madinda kucina kungasazwakali. Nxa ubiza indawo lapho kuhlala khona uMadinda uthi koNdlovu nxa kungumuntu. Nxa engasumuntu uthi uqambe ukuthi Ekhezi. Echolotsho awuthi ukuthi koCholotsho, hayi awuthi ukuthi koCholotsho. Ngakho ke yikho kwaba ngubulawayo kobulawayo. Obulawayo nguLobhengula, ubulawa ngabakibo ombiko kaMadlenya lodade wabo uzinkabi abala ukuthi abuse. Kodwa wabusa wadanisa nguLobhengula lo wabusa. Ngakho ke siyasizwe sebeyidinga inkosi bayidinga, asikwazini ukuthi ngeke wayidinga ubuyele emuva. Kayidinga ubuyele emuva kumzilikazi ngoba ukhona wahlalayo. Waqina kuLobhengula. Kodwa ke sesiya ke kuLobhengula sichaya ilink leHighlanders. uLobhengula uthe engakahlala esihlalweni ubesethethe, kumele sikwazi lokho singakukilizi. Ubethethe okalodada bengabakomkhwanazi kagisa umpande yamadoda. inzalo yahlupha emfazini lo othiwa ngumbhida yahlupha. Esintwini kwakuthi nxa inzalo isala bese besiyadinga umuntu okumisa, kuthiwa kumisa. Wayadingwa ke kogudu, abanye sebefuna ukubalekela ngoba amashona. Lingatshintshi history ngokukhangela eselikhangelana ngakho kwanamuhla, lingatshintshi history. Ngonyamande lakathesi bayadlala icricket abantu bakhona, kogudu bakhona. Nxa sekusiza kwezemithi ebunyangeni, amNdebele awesikhosini abengababandlululi amakhalanga labo njani njani. For example, ngizalitshengisa ukuthi bekuvele kunjalo. Uhole owathatha umntaka loBhengula wayethiwa nguFamona, unina ethiwa engowako Mkhwanazi, wamiswa likhalanga inyanga yesikhalangeni. Abasabizanga ngebizo laleyo nyanga, bapho ukuthi alihole. Yikho wathiwa nguhole, kukhunjulwa inyanga. Omunye koMkhwanazi ugagisa abentunteni, umpande yamadoda, kule nduno kwakuthiwa nguMajinkila, nguyise kaNgumbane. nguMadzingire, ngumlemba wakoNdlovu, nguyowamisa unina kaMajinkila. AmaNdebele abalekelo la o-ara bacine nguMajinkila, wayemele abe nguMadzingire. Kulomunye abanye bathe ngcenye semfaka ijezi, hayi sakumunya lokho, ngoba umele uziqhenye ngokwakini, ungakukhuluma ukubala bakuhlale la. Kodwa ke mina engikukhulumayo konke akula ngitsho ledwa kwampi into enditshele yona engabhalwanga ezingwalweni zami, angikhulumi into engabhalwanga mina. Konke khona okukade ngabhala. Ukhona komunye uChabalala wayinduna uManondwane eyensukamini, wathatha umama ukuzala nki, bayidinga inyanga ingeshoneni. Sitha amathambo kulabo nokwara labo bani kwabe kuthi umntwana ngunokwara enguChabalala. Ukhona khonali ubuduna bakhona sizama ukukhangela ukuthi kanti bungavuswa njani, obukaChabalala obacichayo, hatshi obukaThugulu obusenkayi ngobunya ayisiyo insukamini. Lwana wabongela ukuthi nguye wabamba umpotshwana undiweni, but hayi zakunika ubuduna, wasekuthola ubuduna enkayi. Induna ezaloBhengula lomzilikazi esenkayi kazinengi. Ukhona laba abe unkomo nguye owazala lo owaxotshelwa enkayi. Then kwakule umzondo abakumloyi, hayi lokana sebacitsha, hayi asikuthiyeni lokho esisiza ngapha sidinga island. Utheke esezela uNyamande, kwazalwa futhi lo mfowabo umna wakhe usintinga senkosi, kwesinye isikhathi bambiza ngokuthi Chakalisa. Yibe mbaziyo ababili, angazi into kwaba lentombazana. Lwana owayeze eyinhlanzi wayethiwa umfazi wamajaha, la engakalodada. Utheke engakazazale lwana omdala wazala kuqala. Yena ke wasezala uMhlambi, ilibizo lakhe. Labo ke bazelwe uLobhengula engakasihlali isihlalo, yikho kumele sibuze kuhle. Ube engakasihlali uthe sesihleli, uMhlambi lo nguye ozala ngabanye alimazi umntanakhe ongcwatshwe konkosikazi nguDabengwa, nguye umntanakhe. Ulele khona phana lozikeyi duzane labo lalo uMaja nguNhlanhla ngumasha bakhona phana balele ndawonye bonke abantu labana konkosikazi. Uthi ke sehlezi lo Bhengula umuntu osekhangelela ukuthi uza kuba yindlovukazi akukhutshwe esibili, kwakhutshwa uLothe uhlabangana, kwakhutshwa uXukuthwayo umlotshwa engoNtembeni, lowana omunye yinduba. Ake lihambe liyesidingela indlovukazi khona lephetsha kwaGaza. Bayakuza laye bathola ukuthi uDombole usemdala, kwase kuthiwa ke wena xhwalile hamba weza lomthimba. Kabasabuyelanga lokuya kwethula imincwazi, baphelela ngoba bathola kwakhiwe eMatebeleni, kabasabuyelanga. uLoskeye nango nguye osekhangelelwe ukuthi abe yindlovukazi. Wayeyindlovukazi, kazange azizale umfana. Yikho kwaze kwenza ukuthi kuyekhutshwa inhlanzi abakodlodlo kibo kusenqameni ngokaNgogo. Wakhutshwa ke uthe sekuthiwe umntakamlethe oseze umntana koyinkazana uzalela uLoskeye, wayethiwa nguMamfimfi. uMamfimfi nangu uMamfimfi laye ezala intombazana. Intombazana le izalwa ngemva
and the consequences of that particular war. Right, you might recall that earlier on I indicated that there was an attempt in Lobengula's wife, in King Lobengula's life, 3 months before the war. Now, after the demise of the kingdom, we as a people, we lost our sovereignty, meaning that we ceased to be a nation. We went under a transition of colonialism. It lasted 90 years in Mashonaland, and it lasted 87 years in Matebeleland. Now, when we finally fought against the colonialists, and when we were given our independence, we were not recognized as a state that existed before colonialism. Now, we have got to understand the consequence of this event. I will cite for you United Nations Colonial Committee Statute, which I will refer as the decolonial process policy of 1514-1960. I'm sure you can Google it right now and find it. Right, it says that any colony that was colonized should be returned to its former state upon independence. Now, the events of the Lancaster Wars in 1980 did not recognize Matebeleland as an independent state before colonialism. And therefore, we were placed under a colonial system of a sister colony that we will call now Mashonaland. And you will remember that if you take the Lancaster House document, it will tell you that by 1980, Mashonaland were given 66, and Matebeleland was allocated 20 parliamentary seats, despite the fact that in terms of geography, Matebeleland is bigger than Mashonaland. You must also know that in the context of the Zimbabwean geography, there is nothing called Midlands. All the part of Midlands today that you guys call Midlands, it is actually Matebeleland. So, by that, the flawed decolonization process has put our people under a modern or a proxy of colonialism. That is, in this case, the Zimbabwean government, because I say this because by the time of colonization, the end of colonization, we were supposed to be given back our country. the way that it was taken by the colonial period. And then it was up to us to join, to decide. If we wanted to join Zimbabwe, as the case of Barotseland in Zambia, we could have made our own decision, but we were not informed. We were simply taken from another colonial system and placed in another colonial system. So this is a political consequence. Now, as we proceed, let's also look at the economic consequence of the war. Remember, I told you that when the king left Bulawayo, there was a lot of treasure, wealth, in terms of diamonds and gold. That the expected value of those diamonds and gold were 10 million sovereign pounds. Right, a sovereign pound is double the commoner's pound. By 1893 standard, 10 million sovereign pounds will simply translate to 20 million commoner's pound. If you factor that, and then you will look at the net present value streams, try to bring it into modern day value, how much money do you think we can have as a nation? I'm sure we will all go back home, and then we will also be able to raise our own nation to modern day economies, developed economy and so forth, because there is a lot of money there. Right. Those are the things that we can claim as part of our reparations. Now, besides the wealth in terms of diamonds, we had a lot of cattle. Right? A number of cattle. Remember, upon defeating Lopengula, the colonialists, they formed what is called a loot committee. Right? That loot committee was simply responsible for looting our wealth. Right? They distributed the cattle. Some of them were taken to South Africa. Some of them were taken to New Zealand. Some of them were taken to Australia. Some were kept at Naunesi Ranch. I'm sure Naunesi Ranch is around Mwenezi. Between Mwenezi, Rutenga, somewhere around Chiretsi there. That's where the other cattle were kept. Well, some of the cattle were given to the European pioneers and the Shona Batmen. I'm sure I have a record of a telegram that was coming from Martin to Gray, giving the exact number of cattle, how they were distributed per province to European settlers, per province to Shona settlers, and the other ones were taken to Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. So it is quite recorded. It's not a hearsay or it's not a folklore. It is a historical fact. Right. You also know that Thomas Mickley and other European guys got a lot of our cattle, and that was the money that they used to capitalize their business. Today, Thomas Mickley is one of the biggest hotels around Africa. They are listed in Johannesburg, they are listed in London, they are listed in New York, they are listed in Beijing. So you will then understand the value of our wealth, of our father's wealth, in modern day terms. Right, that's an economic perspective. But quite interesting. Also, from a humanitarian perspective, the results of the war had severe consequences that they are still felt by now. Remember, when the king was defeated, the advancing pioneer column committed genocide. They raped women, they killed a lot of men, and they created in what is today called reserves. I'm sure you know the reserves of 1894. If you know very well that if you come from Cholocho, you come from Gwai, areas of Lupane and so forth, all those places were not habited by people because of mosquitoes and because of tsetse flies. So as a result, when the Matebele our people were moved away from productive areas and productive fertile lands, soils, they moved and they were grouped in Cholocho, in Gwai, in what they called Gwai Shangani reserves. So for a long period of time, people were being moved and put into those reserves. The whole idea there was to expose people to malaria so that they will die in numbers. I will also I'll also tell you one thing that you probably might not know. Before colonialism, the population of Matebeles was 3 times bigger than the population of Mashonaland. It's a historical fact. But if you look today at our numbers, how minority we are, you are really, really surprised. What really happened during the years of colonialism? I've given you the explanation. It is a series of genocides and a series where labor was imported. It was imported from freed slaves in Fort Jesus that were taken and placed into into places in Mashonaland for farming areas and purposes. So you must understand that those guys were they were never delayed, they were never disadvantaged by genocides. They kept on multiplying and reproducing to a point where they become a vast majority as it is today. So now, in a nutshell, to conclude this lecture, we will revisit 3 important points. Remember, our lecture was based on 3 strands of knowledge. Now, the first strand of knowledge was the political side, political perspective that I've given. We lost our nation, we lost our nationhood after we were defeated by the pioneer column, and later on, upon independence, we were also placed another sister colony, which we call Mashonaland, and up to today, we are an occupied state. Right, that's a political perspective. And from a humanitarian perspective, the consequences of the war were quite severe. We lost a lot of people through genocide. Our women were raped. We were displaced into malaria-infested regions like Cholocho and Lupane. I'm sure you all have also indicated that. From an economic perspective, you also remember that I spoke very much tentatively about the wealth that we had. We had a lot of wealth, more than 10 million worth of gold and diamonds in sovereign pounds. Our own kekli were taken. They were taken to New Zealand. They were taken to Australia. They were taken to South Africa. Some of them were given to Europeans that they use to start businesses today that are multi-billion businesses. But we have got no share, and we have never made a legal claim to those things. I'm sure we should be in a position, with this knowledge that we have, we should be in a position to claim all those reparations. I mean, it should not stop us. As we speak right today, the British are paying for the Herero in Namibia. Sorry, the Germans are paying for the Herero in Namibia. The British are still paying the Machi Machi in Tanzania. And they are also still paying in Kenya. The Germans are still paying the Jews. What is stopping us from claiming our reparations? We should claim our reparations. We should claim the reparations in terms of the wealth that we lost, in terms of humanitarian losses that we incurred. So, as we conclude this lecture, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who has taken his important time to come and listen to the historical lecture that I have given. I will also emphasize that the Berkeley of Pupu is a Berkeley that belongs to the legends of history. Right. The British Army was defeated outside Britain only 2 times in their history. Right. The first one, they were defeated by the Zulus at Esandlwana, the Berkeley of Esandlwana. The British were defeated by the Zulus. Now, in that Berkeley, it was before the invention of the Maxim gun. So the Zulus used their sheer power and their numbers to surround the Europeans, the British in particular, and kill them. Now, the second Berkeley that they were defeated outside Europe, they were defeated by the Matebeles in 1893. Thus, only 2 times the British were defeated outside Europe. They were defeated by the Matebeles in 1893. So with this recognition, today we celebrate the hero of our forefathers. We glorify their names. We pray and we wish that the identity of Matebeles nation will be encouraged and resurrected by the heroes today that stopped a machine gun, that fought gallantly at Pupu, and defeated the European forces. Remember, the only time when the Maxim gun was used against an African army was only in Matebeles and in Ghana against the Asante. So that was the only time. And the Asante did not record a single battle against the Europeans, against the Maxim gun. But we did record a battle. And also again in 1896, in that war, well, it is outside our scope. I hope at one particular time, we'll get time to explain the events of 1896 that I have called the Second Matebeles War, which is erroneously called Chimurenga. I challenge that. It is the Second Matebeles War. So I hope one time we'll get time to discuss about that war. But in that war again, we were never defeated. In fact, because the war was taking long and the pioneer colon could not sustain the war, Cecily John Rhodes took it upon himself to go to Matebeles and make a negotiation. Most of the things that were negotiated and agreed there, they were never implemented. So we never lost that war. So you could understand that as we stand today, despite having gone through series of colonialism, first colonialism by the imperial, by the British, and the second colonialism by our secular, our black brothers from Zimbabwe. They've also colonized us. But we remain proud. We remain hopeful that at some particular time in future, our children will be encouraged by the heroism that has been continuously established by our forefathers. Right. With these short words, I would like to thank you, everyone. I would like to thank you, 1893 Umtwakazi Human Rights Group, for giving us this time to come and meet and discuss about this important Berkeley. I hope we will continue to engage after this lesson has been closed in other platforms, or in this platform. We can still talk about it. We will meet in other threads, in social media, in Facebook, in WhatsApp. We will discuss about this Berkeley in length and in detail. Thank you very much for taking your time to come and listen to this lecture. I thank you. Goodbye.